People don't change when they're comfortable. They don't change when everything's going well. They change when there's pain. And we're in a lot of cultural pain right now. Every week, if you want, you can read about people who derail their careers or severely damage the organizational brand that they work for or represent because they say or do something that is just unacceptable culturally. And they're not even aware of what they're doing sometimes. And so we're living in a world right now where there's a lot of cultural pain. And there's a lot of movement to hold people accountable for things. And I just read a report this morning that 50% of ministers in the United States, in a major study that was done, 50% of ministers in the United States are very concerned about offending someone culturally just by saying the wrong thing in the wrong way. And I think a lot of us are right now kind of like, especially working and talking and speaking with people from other cultures, a little bit like apprehensive. What do we say? How do we say it? Okay? And that's the necessity of the cultural mindset and skill set development with cultural mastery, right? But pain drives cultural transformation. You look at Mothers Against Drunk Driving, right? Well, this young teenage girl walking down the road to go to church was killed by a drunk driver, and her mother was in such pain that she started MAD, right? I believe that happened, I think it was in Oklahoma, or it was a Midwestern state out there. Pain, angst. Okay? The second thing we do in the 6 stages of cultural transformation is assessment. We have to know exactly where we're at and why we're there. Okay? So when the leaders come together, right, this group of leaders who have been through cultural mastery, they've developed the proper cultural mindset and the proper cultural skill set, and they come together, the first thing we do with them is identify our points of pain and our points of discomfort. The second thing we do is we move into assessment. And we're assessing two things. We're assessing the cultural health and skill of the members of the team, because the parts make the whole, and the team is only as healthy as the team members will allow it to be. Okay? One of the things that we're seeing in organizations is the tendency to call in a almost like a CCO, Chief Cultural Officer, or a Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion, and kind of put that into a department. And as important as that may be, especially once we get into stage 6 of cultural transformation, and their role is so critical, the reality is we have to get our team members culturally healthy. No one person can make a team whole. We just saw this last year in the NBA with the Los Angeles Lakers. You know, if you follow basketball, you know, they have the best player on the planet. So let's say they have the top level chief cultural officer in the world, but they didn't make the playoffs. And the reason they didn't make the playoffs was because of dysfunction within the team. To the point where yesterday their president, Magic Johnson, who is a Laker through and through, resigned suddenly, surprisingly, which is only a symptom of cultural dysfunction and frustration. We have to assess our team members and their cultural skill and health. We also have to assess our organizational culture, and that's a completely different subject, but there are ways to assess the health of the organizational culture, which is really an assessment of environment. Okay? So I want to talk with you a little bit about this report. I want to come back to this, all right? And by the way, if you have any questions, just go ahead and pop them in the chat, and Haley will get them to me, and I'm happy to answer them, okay? So this was a study we did with 30 business D&I leaders and academic leaders. This is real data. There's some very personal questions, and it really does put a mirror on the soul. There's no question. Anywhere from 4.99, and this is on a 10-point scale, below is considered culturally non-skilled. And we are assessing against the principles of cultural mastery. That's the validity of the assessment. That's what we're assessing. 5 to 5.99 is novice cultural skill, and 6 to 6.99 is basic cultural skill. 7 to 7.99 is an intermediate, and then advanced and an expert level cultural skill. So I'd like to ask you, And again, 30 business leaders, D&I leaders, and academic leaders. What do you believe was the aggregate cultural health and skill score for those leaders? Haley, I wish we had a poll. Okay? We should have done a poll here. All right? I'm going to show you. Again, very real data. Okay? So, thank you, Antonio. Antonio says 6. Another person says 4.99 and below. Anybody else? You can just keep putting it in the chat. That's great, because that at least give us something to work with there, right? Okay? Good. So everybody's kind of going low, and I probably set that up as low, right? Okay. Good. Okay. Awesome. All right, here it is. I'm going to show it to you. Again, real data. 5.11. 5.11. These are all business leaders in corporations and higher than mid-level management, academic leaders, and diversity and inclusion leaders. In this group of 30, these 30 people are 8 diversity and inclusion type leaders. Okay, and then the other was a mix. Okay, 5.11 is the overall. We're measuring cultural background, cultural stereotypes and biases, cultural experience, cultural leadership, cultural knowledge, which you can see is very low, and then the overall aggregate score. If you look at this on another type of plot graph, right, you can see that these 30 people they're all over the place. So you actually have no one out of the 30, no one scored over 7. And one person actually scored under 3. So we take 30 different data points off of that assessment, and we graph it out, and we show the organizational leaders, not the individuals, because no individual's name is on this report, but we show the aggregate. This is the true cultural health and skill of your team. And then you can make the easy connector to, if this is the case, how many missed opportunities are we leaving on the table? Because we are simply not connecting culturally. Or how many times are we actually repelling people from us and our leadership and our organization because we simply are not culturally endeared with one another? Or perhaps we're even offending them. I'll show you one graph, okay? And I'm not going to go into detail on this report. This is a question that we ask regarding stereotypical thinking, okay? And you can see that 17 of these leaders said that they sometimes engage in stereotypical thinking regarding others. And of course, we give the framework for what that means. One said they frequently do it, regularly. So if you have a leader who regularly does it, then that may be a problem within your organization. But and then others will do it under pressure, and then sometimes, and then only 3 people said never, right? So 27 people out of 30, in some way, shape, or form, are susceptible to stereotypical thinking. And again, we can only get honest data. By the way, on the assessment, we recently changed it so that you have the option of just not even giving your name. Because we're not concerned about that. This is not a lead generator. This is an assessment tool for stage 2 of cultural transformation. We need to see where we're at. We cannot do a gap analysis. And we cannot fix something we don't know that exists. And so what happens in cultural training or diversity and inclusion training is we tend to segment things. So we'll bring somebody in and do a speech on bias, or we'll bring somebody to come in and do a speech on social justice, or we'll bring somebody to do a speech on stereotyping and prejudice, or whatever it is we happen to bring somebody in to speak on, whatever that is, But that doesn't work because it's too segmented. Because the real solution is very holistic. And it's the recreation of a cultural mindset and skill set that actually allows people to get to cultural endearment together with anyone who's different from themselves. This third stage of cultural transformation is ambition. The leadership group, the core group, comes together and they set their ambition, or they set the vision, okay? So the difference between a vision and a mission is that the vision is clear. A mission is a calling. A vision is a clear plan. Vision means I see, all right? So a mission may be, I'm called to create cultural transformation. A vision may be, I'm called to help create meaningful, deep, and sustainable cultural transformation in the next 2 years within 2,000 organizations or communities. That would be a vision. And a vision would be even more clear. So as we look at cultural transformation, we bring together our leadership groups. We have to set a very clear and compelling vision. And the reason is, and here's a big flaw in the way we approach this again, there's a discipline to the process. Most leaders will go straight to stage 4. They'll get kind of pumped up about something, and they'll make an announcement that we're going to fix this, right? Think back a year or two ago where Starbucks had an issue with a store manager in Philadelphia, and it's a real big problem on many, many levels. It's very complex if you study it actually. But at the end of the day, Starbucks decided to close 8,000 stores to do 1 day of bias training. By all accounts, it was very ineffective. And the reason is because they made this huge announcement and then had a solution that was not holistic in any sense. Okay? Announcement should only come after we have gone through the process of really seriously defining our points of pain and discomfort and doing a proper assessment of both our organizational culture and the cultural health and skill of each individual. Okay? And then we have to set a clear and compelling vision. And then we announce that vision to the people who are in our sphere of influence, our organization, our department, our division. And then what happens, if this is properly announced, we move to stage 5, activism. And rather than us having to go and sell a vision, people will be drawn to it because they were part of it also, because the leadership group became culturally endeared with many different cultures in this process before they even set the vision. So you have a vision plan that is incredibly culturally relevant. I always tell people, if it's not culturally relevant, it's not relevant.